Why does it seem that the worst people succeed? Is it because a lack of scruples is a requirement for achieving power? Or perhaps, are we only seeing the surface of a much deeper psychological process? Carl Jung taught us that the reality we see is influenced by invisible forces within our own psyche: ambition, power, morality. All of this is not simply a matter of conscious choices, but of unconscious dynamics that shape who we are and how we relate to the world. Imagine this: two people with the same talent and the same opportunities. One of them plays fair, follows their principles, and trusts in genuine effort. The other is cunning, willing to manipulate, betray, and use others to climb the ladder of power. Who do you think will achieve success faster? If your answer is the second person, you are not alone. History is full of figures who rose ruthlessly, taking what they wanted without regard for the consequences to others. But Jung would ask us a different question. Is this really success? From the surface, it seems that the world rewards cunning and manipulation. But Jung shows us that the true conflict occurs within the human psyche. Those who seek power without limits end up enslaved by it. The more they try to control the external world, the more they lose control over themselves. The shadow. The hidden power. Within us, to understand this dilemma, we must delve into the concept of the shadow. Jung described the shadow as that part of our psyche where we hide everything we reject about ourselves: repressed desires, dark impulses, forbidden ambitions. We all have a shadow, and the more we ignore it, the more it dominates us from the shadows. That is why, many times, the people who seem the most moral and ethical end up being consumed by their own hypocrisy. The more they reject their ambition and desire for power, the more they end up projecting it onto others. Here arises a key problem. Those who do not integrate their shadow often fall behind in the struggle for success. While trying to be good people, there are others who accept their impulses without fear and use them to advance. They do not stop to think about what is right or wrong. They simply act without the internal doubts that hold others back. But does this mean we must give in to a lack of scruples to succeed? Jung offers us a deeper alternative. It is not about rejecting morality or accepting corruption as inevitable. It is about recognizing our shadow, confronting it, and using its energy in a conscious way. People who seem weak often have repressed their shadow to the point of not having access to their own inner strength. They see themselves as victims of an unjust world, but in reality, they are prisoners of their own psychological limitations. On the other hand, those who integrate their shadow and understand it can use its energy without being consumed by it. This does not mean acting unethically, but accepting that within each person exists the potential for both good and evil. Power as a reflection of internal conflict. When we observe the most powerful people in the world, we often see that morality is not what got them there. Rather, they seem to have learned to navigate the complexities of power without getting trapped in remorse or guilt. From Jung's perspective, power is neither inherently good nor bad. It is a reflection of the human psyche, a manifestation of our own internal conflicts. When someone seeks power without having confronted their shadow, their success becomes fragile. They surround themselves with paranoia, with the need to demonstrate their strength again and again. External domination is only a symptom of their lack of internal control. However, there is another way to achieve power without falling into corruption. Jung described this process as individuation, the path to the total integration of the psyche. In this process, the individual learns to see their shadow without fear, to accept it without being consumed by it. And here we arrive at the central question. What does it really mean to be powerful? Is power a reflection of a lack of scruples? Or could it be the result of a deep self-knowledge? Jung suggests that those who pursue power without psychological integration end up as prisoners of their own ambitions. But those who seek power as a means to know themselves achieve a real transformation. This dilemma leads us to another key concept: the difference between slave morality and master morality, an idea derived from Nietzsche but reinterpreted by Jung in the light of depth psychology. In the next part, we will explore how these concepts help us understand why some people seem destined to lead, while others remain trapped in powerlessness. Why do some people seem predestined for greatness, while others remain trapped in mediocrity? Is it a matter of talent, luck, or is there something deeper at play? To answer this, we must delve into the distinction between slave morality and master. Morality, a concept developed by Nietzsche and reinterpreted by Carl Jung in the light of depth psychology. Slave morality arises from impotence. It is the morality of those who feel weak and seek justification in their suffering. Instead of confronting their own desires for power, they repress and condemn them in others. From this perspective, ambition is seen as something bad, strength as dangerous, and cunning as a sign of evil. On the other hand, master morality arises from genuine power. It is the morality of those who have integrated their shadow and assumed their own potential without fear. Instead of repressing their desires, they channel them consciously. They do not need to justify their success or demonize power, because they have understood it in its entirety. From Jung's perspective, these two moralities reflect fundamental psychological dynamics. Slave morality is the morality of repression, of fear of power, of denial of one's own shadow. It is a state in which the person projects their resentment onto others and clings to a sense of justice based on the denial of internal conflict. In contrast, master morality is the morality of individuation, the recognition that within every human being exists both light and darkness. It is the morality of those who have assumed their responsibility and understood that power is not something to be rejected, but integrated and used wisely. But here arises a dilemma. If slave morality keeps us trapped in impotence and master morality allows us to achieve power, does that mean we must abandon all ethics to succeed? Jung would respond that it is not about abandoning ethics, but transcending superficial morality. The price of success, strength or manipulation. True success does not come from manipulation, but from the ability to face one's own psyche without fear. People who have achieved lasting success are not necessarily the most ruthless, but those who have understood the workings of power on a deep level. This is where many people fail. They believe that success is a matter of deception and manipulation, when in reality it is a reflection of internal balance. Those who seek power at any cost often end up destroying themselves. The more they try to dominate the external world, the more they lose control over their own inner world. People who live under slave morality believe that power is something alien to them, something that belongs only to the wicked. But by denying their own ambition, they end up trapped in impotence, unable to change their own lives. People who have embraced master morality have understood that ambition is not something to be rejected, but integrated. Instead of denying their desires for power, they use them as a force for growth and transformation. However, this does not mean that all powerful people have achieved individuation. Many of them have simply learned to exploit power without understanding its deeper implications. They have achieved external success, but their inner world remains in chaos. The danger of projection. When the shadow rules in secret, one of the biggest mistakes we make in judging powerful people is thinking that they are fundamentally different from us. We say things like, "That person is a monster. I would never do something like that. Those powerful people are corrupt, while I am a good person." But Jung warns us about the dangers of projection. When we condemn others without examining our own psyche, we are actually projecting our shadow onto them. This means that the same tendencies we criticize in the powerful also exist within us, but repressed, and the more we deny them, the more influence they have over our lives. Projection is one of the most powerful mechanisms of the unconscious. It makes us see in others what we do not want to accept in ourselves. That is why, many times, the people who criticize power the most are those who deep down desire it the most. But instead of assuming that ambition and giving it a purpose, they repress it and turn it into resentment. The great paradox of power is neither good nor bad in itself. Its nature depends on the psychological state of the person who wields it. In the hands of someone who has integrated their shadow, power becomes a tool for creation. In the hands of someone who represses their shadow, it becomes a weapon of destruction. Therefore, Jung tells us that the path to true power is not external but internal. It is not about accumulating wealth or influence, but about integrating our own psyche. So, how can we transcend this dichotomy and find a path that does not lead us to either impotence or corruption? In the next part, we will explore the process of individuation, the path that Jung described as the key to integrating our shadow and achieving authentic power. Why do some people, even after achieving success, still feel empty and dissatisfied? Why do others, despite never gaining wealth or recognition, radiate an inner strength that seems indestructible? To answer these questions, we must delve into the process of individuation, the path that Jung described as the key to human fulfillment. External success and superficial power can be fleeting if not backed by a well-integrated psyche. This is where many people fail without even realizing it. They believe that achieving success means dominating others, when in reality, it means mastering oneself. Jung tells us that the path to true power lies in the integration of the shadow. The shadow is the hidden part of our psyche, containing all the impulses, desires, and aspects of our personality that we have repressed because they do not fit the image we want to project. When we deny our shadow, it does not disappear. Instead, it operates in secret, influencing our decisions and sabotaging our growth. This is why many people who achieve success through manipulation or deception end up self-destructing. They have repressed their own shadow to the point where it eventually turns against them. So how can we integrate our shadow and transform power into something that strengthens us rather than consumes us? Phase 1. Recognizing the shadow. The first step in the process of individuation is recognizing that our shadow exists. This can be challenging because it involves admitting that within us, there are impulses we would rather deny. To do this, Jung suggests observing our projections. What bothers us most in others is often a reflection of what we have repressed in ourselves. If we are irritated by arrogant people, it may be because we have repressed our own desire to stand out. If we despise the ambitious, it might be because we fear our own ambition. If we criticize power, it could be because deep down, we desire it, but are afraid to admit it. Observing our emotional reactions is one of the most effective ways to discover our shadow. Every time we feel an intense emotion, especially if it is negative, we should ask ourselves, am I seeing in this person something that I actually do not want to see in myself? This first step requires great honesty and courage. It is not easy to admit that within us, there are also impulses of control, ambition, or even aggression. But only by recognizing them can we prevent them from dominating us in secret. Phase 2. Facing the shadow. Without fear, recognizing the shadow is only the first step. The next phase is facing it without fear. Many people, upon discovering their shadow, panic. They realize they have been repressing a fundamental part of their psyche and do not know what to do with that information. Some try to deny their shadow again, which only strengthens its influence in the unconscious. Others fall into the trap of completely identifying with it, becoming cynical and ruthless people who justify their actions with the excuse of having awakened to the reality of the world. But Jung warns us that both options are dangerous. Neither denial nor complete identification with the shadow leads to true individuation. The goal is not to reject the shadow or surrender to it, but to integrate it consciously. Integrating the shadow means accepting that yes, within us there are dark impulses, but we also have the capacity to channel them in a way that strengthens us rather than destroys us. For example, Repressed aggression can be transformed into determination and discipline. Repressed desire for power can become genuine leadership. Repressed envy can be used as motivation for personal growth. When we face our shadow with courage, we stop being slaves to our emotions and become masters of our destiny. Phase 3. Integrating the opposites. Jung tells us that individuation is the process of reconciling the opposites within us. We are not just light or just darkness, but a combination of both. Many people fail in this process because they believe they must choose between being good or bad, between the path of slave morality and master morality. But the truth is that true greatness does not lie in the extremes, but in the integration of the opposites. The true leader is not the one who represses their shadow, but the one who understands it and uses it consciously. True success does not come from denying power, but from the ability to exercise it wisely. True growth is not a struggle against our impulses, but a process of transformation in which we turn our weaknesses into strengths. When we achieve this integration, we stop seeing power as something alien to us. We no longer fear it or seek it obsessively. We simply incorporate it as another part of our nature and use it in a balanced way. The key to authentic and lasting power. Many people who have achieved external success feel dissatisfied because they have never completed their process of individuation. They have gained power, but they remain slaves to their own shadows. On the other hand, those who have integrated their psyche may not be the richest or most famous, but they possess an unbreakable inner strength. They are people who, regardless of their position in the world, radiate a presence that inspires and transforms others. Jung teaches us that true power is not the ability to dominate others, but the ability to master ourselves. It is the result of having traveled the path of individuation and integrated all aspects of our psyche. But this process is not easy. It requires courage, self-knowledge, and a constant willingness to explore the darkest corners of our minds. In the next part, we will explore how archetypes, especially the archetypes of the hero and the sage, can guide us on this journey of self-knowledge and transformation. In this part, we will delve deeper into one of the most powerful concepts in Carl Jung's psychology: archetypes. Jung believed that these universal patterns of behavior, present in the collective unconscious, are fundamental to understanding inner power and its manifestation in our lives. But how do these archetypes relate to real power, the kind that allows us to transcend superficial power dynamics and achieve genuine success? Archetypes are symbolic representations of psychic forces that reside within each human being. These include figures such as the hero, the sage, the shadow, the anima, animus, and many others, which act as guides in our process of individuation. However, two archetypes in particular play a crucial role in the transformation of power: the hero and the sage. The hero archetype, overcoming fear, and the shadow. The hero archetype is central to the journey of individuation. In mythology, the sea hero is the one who embarks on an epic journey, facing difficult trials and overcoming their own fears and limitations. Jung saw the hero as a figure reflecting each person's internal struggle to grow and become something greater and more complete. But what does this have to do with power? The answer lies in the fact that the hero is, essentially, a conqueror of the self. The hero does not seek power over others, but confronts their own fears, weaknesses, and shadows to find their true strength. The power the hero gains is not external but internal, for by overcoming the obstacles within, they achieve a deep connection with their authentic self. In everyday life, we can see the hero archetype manifesting in those who face personal difficulties with courage. People who do not conform to external expectations, who challenge imposed norms and seek their own path. By confronting their shadows, fears, and limitations, they transform and acquire a power that goes beyond any social or material recognition. The sage archetype, the power of inner wisdom, if the hero is the one who struggles with external obstacles and their own shadow. The sage is the archetype that guides us toward a deeper understanding of the power within us. The sage is the one who has achieved internal clarity, mental peace, and connection with the unconscious. Jung speaks of the importance of the sage as an inner teacher, a figure who helps us find the balance between action and reflection. Unlike the hero who focuses on external conquest, the sage focuses on self-knowledge. The sage understands that true power does not come from the accumulation of wealth, status, or control over others, but from the ability to see beyond the illusions of the external world. In our daily lives, the sage archetype appears in those moments when we choose reflection over impulsive reaction. It is the inner voice that advises prudence, introspection, and the search for deeper meaning in our actions. The sage can see the shadows operating not only in their own life but also in the world around them, and does so with serenity, without being dragged into chaos. The wisdom of the sage does not seek domination over the external world, but focuses on internal harmony, deep self-knowledge, and the understanding that real power comes from the acceptance and integration of all aspects of our psyche. The power of balance. The convergence of the hero and the sage. Although the hero and the sage seem to have different roles, Jung teaches us that true power comes from the integration of both archetypes. The hero drives us to act and confront our shadows, while the sage guides us with knowledge and calm. Together, these archetypes show us how to obtain a power that is not destructive or selfish, but transformative and balanced. This balance is crucial for understanding why superficial power, which comes from manipulation or domination, will never last. People who seek power from arrogance, control, or disregard for others inevitably find themselves empty because their power is not grounded in a solid internal foundation. On the other hand, those who have integrated both the wisdom of the sage and the courage of the hero possess a power that does not depend on external factors, but on their ability to be complete and authentic. The hero and the sage. Within. As in our own journey of individuation, we must learn to balance these two archetypes. Each of us has a hero and a sage within. The hero motivates us to move forward and fight for what we desire, while the sage invites us to reflect and act with wisdom. When we manage to integrate these aspects into our lives, we find a power that is sustainable, authentic, and deeply transformative. In the final part of this video, we will explore how this inner power can change the way we relate to others and the world, and how we can use it to contribute to the well-being of our society without losing our authenticity. In this final part, we will address the most fascinating and crucial concept in Carl Jung's depth psychology: the shadow. The shadow is not just a dark aspect of personality, but a manifestation of everything a person has repressed, ignored, or not integrated. In many ways, it is the key to understanding how people can tap into a true source of power or how they lose their authenticity by trying to hide it. The shadow is directly linked to our repressed emotions and behaviors, those we typically consider unacceptable or shameful. However, Jung taught us that whatever is repressed does not disappear. Instead, it accumulates in the shadows of our psyche, and its influence can be much more powerful than we imagine. People who seem successful but achieve it through manipulative or destructive behaviors are often operating from a deep place of ignorance toward their own shadow. They have not integrated these repressed aspects, leading them to seek power through control, domination, or exploitation. This external power, no matter how impressive, is built on an unstable foundation because it lacks roots in authenticity. The power of integration. Confronting the shadow. So how can we integrate the shadow and find a deeper power? Jung asserted that confronting the shadow is a painful but necessary process, for it is only by integrating these repressed aspects that we can achieve true individuation. Instead of avoiding our dark emotions, impulses, and desires, we must face them head-on, recognize them, and understand why they exist within us. This process does not mean giving in to our basest desires, but acknowledging their presence, learning, from them and transforming the negative into something positive. Real power, according to Jung, comes from this integration. A person who has confronted their own shadow and learned to understand their darkest impulses possesses a much stronger power than that which comes from merely dominating others. This person has a healthier relationship with themselves, as they are not constantly at war with their unconscious. This is a power based on self-understanding, self-acceptance, and authenticity. Jung saw individuation as a process in which the person integrates all parts of their psyche, including confronting the shadow. By achieving this integration, the ET person reaches a state of internal balance and can live more authentically, allowing them to positively impact their environment without the need for manipulation or control.
Power and interpersonal relationships. How the shadow influences. Society power is not only defined at the personal level, but also manifests in interpersonal relationships. When people do not confront their shadow, they tend to project it onto others, often destructively.
These projections create toxic power dynamics, such as abuse of authority or emotional manipulation. However, when a person has worked on their individuation process and integrated their shadow, they can relate to others more authentically. Instead of seeing the other as a threat or rival, they see them as a complete human being with their own shadows and struggles. The true essence of power, according to Jung, lies in the ability to transform our relationships. By understanding our own shadows and those of others, we can begin to build deeper and more balanced relationships. The power in these relationships is not based on domination, but on mutual understanding, respect, and authenticity. The paradox of power: internal success versus external success. Throughout this video, we have explored the tension between external success and internal success. In our society, we tend to value power obtained through external recognition, such as money, status, or influence. However, Jung invites us to look beyond these appearances and question what it truly means to have power. Real power is not measured by what one possesses or controls, but by how one relates to oneself and others. Those who seek power solely to fill an internal void or impose their will on others are operating from a limited perspective. In contrast, those who have worked on their individuation process and integrated their shadows possess a more enduring and meaningful power, one based on authenticity, self-knowledge, and respect for others. The journey towards true transformation, this journey toward integrating the shadow, recognizing the archetypes operating within us, and seeking inner power is a long and challenging process. But as Jung taught us, it is also the path to true freedom and authenticity. By acknowledging our shadows and transforming our relationships, we can find a power much deeper and more satisfying than the superficial power society often celebrates. So how do we define power? It is a power that comes from within, a power that does not seek to control others but seeks integration and authenticity. It is the power of self-knowledge and living in harmony with others, understanding that true success is not measured by what one has, but by what one is. We invite you to continue exploring the fascinating depth psychology of Carl Jung, focused on the unconscious, interpersonal relationships, and psychic dynamics in our next video. Until next time.